Welcome back to the Gear Shed, guys. Once again, we're going to do the tent review for you. This time, something from 3FUL Gear. This did catch my fancy. It's quite a cool little tent, actually. It's not mega super light. It's a two-man sort of 3-season dome tent. Comes in at 2 kgs. They say 1.9 in a bit, but it's actually 2 kgs all up. It does come with a footprint, which I'm not going to use today, but we will talk about that later on in the video. Quite a light fabric. It's 15 denier sail nylon for the fly, and it's got a 20 denier sail nylon floor, so it's not particularly super robust floor. It's probably the lightest floor out of any of these ultralight tents I've got from China, so definitely probably be using the footprint with this one, or some kind of footprint, because it does seem quite fragile. Anyway, enough of my ramblings. What we will do is we'll pop it up as usual, have a walk around, we'll discuss about features and such like. We'll stick my thermarest inside, give you an idea of room, and then have a recap at the end. Right, so here is it up. Now it's a dome shaped tent. It has two poles, corner to corner, over the top here, and then it has a single sort of like a vestibule pole that goes across the top as well, and then you just go out to these little aluminium clips, eyelets basically. It is outer pitch first, so these basically little clips go over the poles, and your way laughing, the inner and outer is up ready to go, so the inner just hangs on the inside, which is quite a good thing for the UK. There's always that discussion about the inner pitch versus the outer pitch, about how fast it is to put up in the wet and such like. So this is definitely outer pitch first, which makes it a little bit of a quick setup. So like anything in package, obviously you get your poles, you get your fly, you get inner outer. This one came with a free footprint as well, which I think once we have a look at the floor, I think you'll agree that it's something I probably will have to use, as much as I dislike them. As per usual, we get the standard cheap Chinese pegs. Oops, throwing things on the ground here. A repulse sleeve, repair, pretty standard stuff. And the stuff sack is actually seam sealed. It's quite cool, it's seam sealed. Sorry, not seam sealed, it's actually seam bound, but it's fairly watertight. And it's actually got a roll top on it as well, so probably keep a fair amount of the water out, with a little bit of it, compression straps and stuff on it. So it's quite a cool bag. The bag's quite good quality. So a couple of little crazy things on this. The first one is how the guy ropes go on. So the guys, there's no attachments for guy out points on the tent apart from these two at the top here on the end of this sort of vestibule pole. Now this vestibule pole is also on a funny angle. It's not straight. It's actually on an angle for the tent, so that's something to do with give you your vestibules. So you've got your guy ropes on those, but for your main guy out points, it's got this really cool system. It's got a little aluminium, it's basically just a little aluminium tab really, that's free floating on the join of the pole. So when you take the poles apart, this actually free floats on the join, so that's just sandwiched between the two poles when you put it together. This one here I haven't got the guy rope on to give you a better look. Hang on up. And it's just a little aluminium thing, so it's directly to the poles, which is quite unique. It's something I've never seen before in a tent, so that gives you direct connection to the pole itself, so it should give it a bit of strength. That I have had this, I have used this a couple of times already, and I've had it out in wind. It was probably about 25 miles an hour according to my little gustometer, and it was okay. I wouldn't think it's, I mean, it's a 3-season tent, so it's not designed for crazy weather, so it will probably won't stand up to too much wind. It's quite a light sort of, you know, it's a 3-season summer tent really. It's not designed to be bashing around UK winters. Now sewing and design wise, this is, like we said before, it's a 15 denier sail nylon fly. As you can see, it's quite thin. It's not sort of getting to Big Agnes super light sort of realm, but it is quite a thin fly. Ripstop, as you can see. Again, like what we saw on the little pedestrian one, that trekking pole tent, the little ball in the bag tent I did have. All these reinforcements are actually laminated on, they're not sewn on, it's like a glued on patch. Laminated storm flap, that's all laminated there, that's pretty cool. and this has got 2 doors and 2 vestibules, so one each side of the tent. As before, got the little aluminium pole holders on the end connected, and with this one here, obviously you've got the inner and outer all connected together. There's a, we'll have a look at the minute, but there's little toggles that hold the inner to the outer. The footprint, I will double check and put that in the description, but as far as looking at it, you should be able to put the fly up on its own with the poles with the footprint, so making a nice sort of standalone summer shelter. Okay, so let's have a look inside. Now I'm actually really impressed with this tent. It's judging by the dimensions on the site, I was a little nervous that it wouldn't fit, but it's actually huge inside. It's actually longer inside, although its dimensions say it's shorter than the Cloud Peak, the winter nature hike one I've got. Just a word on zips, as per usual. They're quite light, so probably a number 5 zipper. All these lightweight tents, this is probably their Achilles heel on the long run, is the zippers. We'll wait and see. All right, so you just got to be a little bit gentle with them. They're not designed for, you know, not Hillyberg expedition levels. These are lightweight, you know, cut the weight down, will sacrifice a bit of durability. So quite a nice door. Comes all the way up here. Each side has a vent with plastics. There's basically a plastic stiffer in there. Mesh underneath there, a little pin to hold it up, a little stake to hold it up in there. Now vestibule wise, not crazily huge, but there's one on each side, so that's definitely an advantage. And we've got quite big doors, so this is a totally mesh inner. Let's climb and have a look here. You get to see my ugly face. Right, zip her up. Neighbour's dog barking away merrily there. So all mesh inner, so not super warm tent, so definitely good for summer. But as you can see, there's a huge amount of room. Now I've got my Thermarest Trekker in here again, good old Trekker, and we'll look for lengthwise. As we've talked before, I've said before, these are quite wide mats. This is not your standard Thermarest width. These are the long and extra wide type mats, but you'd still get 2 of these across here, so it's gallons of room. It's only supposed to be 215 centimeters long, so if I lay down here like this, I've got nearly that end, my dirty feet, nearly a foot of gap. I'm like stretching out to touch the fly, to touch the mesh on that side. So it's quite a big tent. This is supposed to be 5 centimeters shorter than the Cloud Peak, which is the winter nature hike one, which is a bit perplexing because I'm finding that a bit small. Definitely wouldn't recommend it if you're over 6 foot. This one here, as I said, I'm 6 foot. I get right up to the end here, my head's touching there, and I've got gallons, like that's the end of my mat there, and the end of the tent is down this way, so my feet aren't even anywhere near the mesh. So it is quite big, it's quite huge inside. Easily to sit up. Let's have a look at my sitting up wise. Just sitting on my mat in the center, you've got another, you know, what, 6 to 8 inches there at the top of your head, so that makes plenty of room. Hook in the corner here. What I found, only one thing with the inner is door wise, I've done a little bit of modification already. So if we undo the door here, let's see if I can do this with one hand. When you roll the door up, it only comes with this one tie back. So you can imagine rolling all this up like this and tying it back to here. What was happening is that it would just fall out of there and fall down. So what I've done is I have actually put a little clip up in the corner here, so this actually holds that whole door out of the way. So that makes a big difference in just livability for that. Now clip wise inside of this, the inner and outer, it's just got a little bit of elastic on there, and it's just got a little clip. It won't be the easiest thing to take on and off, but it just clips into here, so we can do that one-handed like that, easy peasy. Seam sealed, all the tie points have got a little seam sealed patch that's glued on there, So we will see whether that get any leakage, and then we might have to seam seal that a little bit. But it's got a little, almost like a brake material, and then this piece of webbing sewn on top of that. So that's probably, I would say, fairly waterproof. It's all glued over and that's all glued in. So there's no, that's not webbing. It's something else that's stopping anything wicking, I presume, the inside, the outside. So plenty of room in here. So 2 people, it wouldn't be a problem at all in here. It's gallons of room. So materials inside, as I said, this is completely mesh. It's quite a fine no-seam mesh. So we've got little bugs there. They're happily on the outside. So there's plenty and plenty and plenty of mesh in this. So it's going to be a cold tent if you're going to use it in winter time, but it's probably going to be perfect for summer. No complaints there. Now, floor material wise, now let's have a look and see if this camera's going to pick it up. So if I push down on there, you can see the grass. It's quite a light material on the floor. It's 20 denier. It's supposed to be 6,000 millimeters proofing, but we will see. The couple of times I've used the footprint with this because it is very light material. It's not much lighter than heavier than the Fly, so it's the lightest out of any. Well, the 3F UL pedestrian one, the little backpacking tent with the trekking pole that looks like a ball in the bag that I had, was pretty close to the same material. So lose a gallon of weight with this, but obviously the durability is brought into question. So one to think about, you need to use a footprint with this for make it last any longer than a couple of weeks, I would think, if you're using it all the time. Right, so as I said, there's a vestibule on that side. They're not huge. You would get a pack in there. I don't know about cooking. I think it's you'd be a little bit scared of cooking there, I think. You might get away with it if you're lucky. Only single ended zippers on there, so you're going to use it from the bottom. But there's these 2 big vents, one on that side and one on this side. So the times I've used this, I've got no condensation inside. The inner has been obviously being mesh. Yeah, you're not going to get anything condensating on there. It's got a massive gap between the inner and the outer, so there's definitely no touching going on. Yeah, what else can I say? I mean, out of all the tents I've had from China, this one is probably the closest to perfection, I would think. It's huge amounts of room. It's very easy to pitch because it's outer only, outer first. So let's whack it up. Inside stays dry. You can obviously take this out and use the footprint as a standalone for itself. Yeah, huge amount of room for one. If you're willing to take the penalty, the weight hit, which is obviously the 2 kilos, by the time you throw the footprint that comes with it, the footprint's about 250 grams, so you're getting 2.2 kg tent. But for size wise, it's a palace for one person, and it's definitely doable for 2. And you can obviously split things up. You can split the poles, and you know, it does pack down quite small. So fantastic summer tent, definitely great. Wouldn't say it's definitely not 3-season UK. I mean I'm going to use it for that, but I wouldn't recommend it totally as that kind of thing due to all the mesh. There's going to be a fine line where you're going to offset the weight of the tent with the offsetting the weight of your sleep system. So if your sleep system gets too heavy, you might as well take a better tent that you know is going to stand up a bit more. So let's have a look on the outside. Let's have another little run around and we'll have a look. So there we go. It's a nice tent. It's well made. Stitching's pretty good. There's nothing too wonky going there. Probably maybe the one couple of criticisms would be you might get a bit of pulling on the top here. The third pole hasn't really got anywhere to go, whether I put this around the wrong way, which I'll have a look, but I don't think there's nothing sort of holding that in place per se. And when you look at the Chinese website, it has about 2 or 3 different types of ways they've had this, and if you take this pole off, the whole tent sort of pulls up, so this pole kind of pushes down a little bit on it. I've also found if you put too much tension on these guy ropes here, it will actually pop out. You can be in danger of it popping out like that out of the little eyelet on the end there, which is not ideal, obviously. So we put that back in. So that's one to watch for. You don't want to put, that's just really to give it a bit more stabilization. Not having the guy rope connections and having these here is a little bit of a weird decision. I mean, I can see why they've done it, because it's a really bomber connection to the tent, but it makes, obviously putting the poles away, you've got these connected sort of semi-permanently. I'll put some Velcro in there to stop them getting muddled. So it's one to think of. But what you could do then is you can always just then, because these poles are out, so you can then lash some more guy ropes directly to the pole, which is a good thing as well. The poles are about 8.5, so they're not the thickest poles. And these clips here, you might be able to get away with sticking a heavier pole on. I haven't tried that yet. They're just a standard nylon clip, so they might take a little bit of a heavier pole. But for what it's designed for, that's probably a non-issue. I don't think I'd bother too much messing around with this. I think the main reason why the inside's so good is the steep side. You can kind of see that from that angle too. It's got quite a steep side. So wind-wise, it isn't really a perfect angle really. The time I had it out when it was really windy is from this side, and this end was pushing quite a bit on that side. It wasn't collapsing, but it was bowing against the wind. All right, so main door, this one here, again a little bit funny. It has a little Velcro, it has a little bungee that goes around, and you've got a clip up in here somewhere. You just clip it to, and it holds the door away. So that's kind of your door out of the way there. All right. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it's a really nice tent. It's well made. It's cool that it goes up really quickly, all in one. Price wise, they're not the cheapest. This one's about 110. I got this for. So they go up to 100. I've seen them 150, 160. I'll put a link in the description below where I got it from, so you guys can have a look there. All right, but yeah, all in all, nice little tent, great little summer tent. Going to be using this a lot. I'll probably use it a bit bike packing as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to move a little bit away from the light tents, because the ones that are available, I find them either too small or they've got problems with condensation. And especially in summertime in the UK, which is generally, we've had a pretty good one this year, but it's generally quite damp, and that sort of 3-season use, having a lot of mesh, I tend to find that it keeps my sleeping bag and all my stuff inside a lot warm, a lot drier. So I'm sort of heading towards that, and there's obviously a weight penalty with that. It can be quite severe. I mean, this one is looking 2 kilos, so if you compare it to like the Nature Hike Tiger 1, you're looking about 800 grams more, which is quite a bit really. But I'd rather have all this ton of room. I mean, geez, lots of room in there. Have a party in there, no problems. All right. Okay, so hopefully that's the UF3FUL gear Taiji, it's called. All right, thank you for tuning in again. Remember to like and subscribe. Any comments in the comments box below. I endeavour to try and answer everything, and if you want me to measure things and such like, I'll put a full description of weights and stuff of each item in the description below, so you can have a better look. Alright guys, thank you very much, and until next time, cheers.